If you really want to grow your show, grow your brand, grow your personality, really, podcast conferences are a great place to do that. And they're a lot of fun too. And you can make friendships and relationships that may blossom into like actual friendships later or business relationships. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, the benefits of attending podcast conferences. But before I get into it, got to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, Riverside.fm. If you didn't know, Riverside is one of the best places to record 4K video and high quality audio all online. If you do remote podcasts, I definitely recommend you check out Riverside. There's two awesome features that are new-ish within Riverside. One is the Magic Clips, where you record your podcast, their AI goes to town creating snippets for social media, vertical, square, whatever size you need, they've got you covered. And the newest feature, which I've just now started to take advantage of, is the AI-generated show notes. And so if you're sick of writing show notes, give Riverside a try. After you record your episode, you click a button, and its AI will generate show notes for your podcast. So a lot of good things that the people over there are doing. I'm proud to have them back on the show as a sponsor. So if you're new, you're looking to get 20% off any individual Riverside membership plan, head on over to riverside.fm and enter promo code CLIPPED, CLIPPED, for 20% off. Now let's give it a go. All right, so the first benefit of attending a podcast conference is the obvious, which is networking. And networking is, meeting people in your field, in your industry, in your niche, whatever you want to call it. Podcast conferences are a great way to network because everyone there is on the same page. They're either podcasters or podcast service providers, or they work in the podcast industry in some capacity. These are potential peers, potential collaborators, potential friends. And so I think if you're looking to grow your network, and you shouldn't go into this with like you're looking to get something or make money or get clients, it's just you're looking to connect with people. There's gonna be like-minded people that like what you do, and you're gonna have an opportunity to explain what you do. And I encourage you to learn about them. The conversation's gonna flow naturally because you guys are both there focused on topics in your niche, but also get to know them as a person. You may just find your next friend, your next collaborator, your next mentor. It's just a great place to connect with all walks of life within that podcast ecosystem. You never know, maybe you'll get a job, or maybe you'll hire someone and give somebody a job. Maybe you'll find a VA, maybe you'll find an editor for your show, production help, booking guests. There's going to be a lot of people there who have those skill sets. And so the more you can connect, the more that you're going to build that community around your show. Okay, and the next thing is knowledge building or knowledge sharing. You're going to get to hear from people in your industry that are providing tips and insights on things that you may not have known. I guarantee you there's something you can learn when it comes to production, mindset, the financial side of podcasting, production, whatever it is, you're going to be able to learn because chances are you're in a specific subset of the podcast industry. So you don't know everything. You might know a lot about what you do, but I think you should be going to conferences hungry to learn from other people, kind of take some of that stuff home and try to apply it to your own brand, your own business, your podcast, etc. Here's a takeaway that I had, and I learned this from Ashley Graham. Shout out Ashley if you're listening. She's a professional publicist. She gave a great speech, and within that, I asked her a question about booking guests because that was a big part of what she does is providing pitches and fielding pitches. And I book guests for a specific show. I'm not going to mention the name of it, but sometimes I have trouble coming up with a good subject line because, as you know, you probably get a lot of emails. We all do. Subject line is key because that's going to either entice someone to read your email or turn them off from reading your email. And when I used to book guests, well, still, I haven't even implemented this yet, but I'm going to this week. When I book guests for this show, I used to put, to whoever I'm sending it to, I would put interview request with blah, blah, blah for topic of XYZ. So I would essentially just put requesting interview for John Smith about friendship. And I've learned that's not a great way to go about it. Publicists and people on marketing teams and such don't, that kind of email doesn't get them excited to then forward to their client and see if they want to come on the show that's being pitched, I learned that you need to put a hook in your subject line. And it's funny because on Instagram, LinkedIn, in terms of like writing copy or filming videos, I've always learned on those platforms to try to kind of start off with a hook. Start off with like, what's the problem you think that person can address and can help your audience with? So I'm going to start writing hooks in my email subject line, just a few words. I also learned, and I've kind of known this for my own email newsletter, but if you write too many words, the full subject copy gets cut off. It only shows a certain amount. So 4 to 5 words, kind of leading with a hook to draw in the person reading the email. And you're going to have a much better success rate with pitching guests or pitching yourself as a guest. Kind of leading with what's the problem that guest can solve for your audience, or if you're pitching yourself, what's the problem that you can solve for someone else's audience? So knowledge sharing and skill development in that realm is huge. You're going to learn stuff. And I challenge you to pay attention to the speakers. Don't be on your phone. Actually learn. And after them, if you have a question, go up to them and engage. And these people that are speaking on these panels or giving keynotes or whatever it is, they want to know that their audience like got something from it or has a question about it. They're going to be happy to talk to you, especially because if you're at a podcast conference, it's all about podcasting, and the speakers and the attendees, you guys are both passionate about podcasting, and talking about it gets everyone excited. And so don't be afraid, approach them. Shoot your shot, get to know them, ask your question, and learn. The next one is a fun one, and that's inspiration, affirmation, and feedback. And so let's start with, I kind of lumped these 3 together. Inspiration. So honestly, just going there and hearing some success stories from people, or being around in this like electric environment where everyone shares some sort of common goal, it is really inspiring. Hearing success stories from people that have done it, maybe someone that was struggling with only a few dozen downloads per episode. Next thing you know, like their show is blown up and they have advertising revenue, and they talk about how they did it, and they're gonna, chances are, hit some pain points and some challenges that you're currently facing. And so when they talk, it's awesome to hear that it is possible. Like, why not you? If they did it, why can't I do it? And so I think just hearing some of that stuff, it makes it fun, and it makes it, at least for me, it makes me want to do better with my podcast, to do better on YouTube, to grow my production company. When you hear from people that have done it, it's just like the most exciting thing, because you know that like you're almost there and you're ready for that breakthrough, and they're going to tell you how they did it. And you can take bits and pieces of that and try to apply it to your life to overcome your challenges. Affirmation. And that's like when you're sharing your story or you're about your podcast with somebody, and they're like affirming you. We're all starved for words of affirmation. At least I am. I actually met somebody who, forget his name, I apologize, but he was starting a podcast production company, and he said he already has 7 clients. It's a fairly new podcast production company. He shared that with me, and then I shared with him, like I run a podcast production company too. It's called the Podcast Haven. And he was like, oh, the Podcast Haven? He's like, I've heard of you. He's like, when I was starting my production company, I did research on all the other production companies, and I came across the Podcast Haven. He's like, I know who you are. And he said it all confidently. I know who you are. And I was like, dude, inside, I tried not to show it too much, but I felt so good. I was like, that's just one person. But it just kind of shows that like the work I've been putting out there for SEO and on the blog and this podcast, it kind of is like making it all worth it. Just kind of like affirmed that even when it's hard and even when I feel like giving up, that I am doing something right. And that could be true if you're a podcaster, service provider, wherever you fall in the podcast ecosystem. When someone is giving you props or some kind of encouragement, I think that affirmation encourages people to keep going. I actually got feedback from another guy named Roger. He was at the conference. Shout out, Roger, if you're listening. We just connected on social and LinkedIn. But he was talking about his affiliate income from his YouTube channel, which has grown at this point like exponentially. And he bought a Tesla with the money he makes from creating content. And I was like, man, so like, how'd you do it? Because he started talking about like Amazon affiliate marketing, and I've got Amazon links all over the website. On my YouTube, I've talked about it in here, how to make money by promoting products that you believe in. And I was like, man, I'm stuck at like $100 a month, $80 a month on Amazon. It's great. I'm grateful for that little bit of extra change, but I'm trying to get over the hump. And he's like, you know what? I was stuck in that same range forever. He's like, and then I kind of tweaked my approach when creating content. And I mentioned this earlier a little bit in a different context, but he's like, I started leading with my videos, addressing people's problem or pain point, and then in that video, addressing my solution for their problem or for their pain point. And he's like, I challenge you, whether you're writing, creating a podcast, creating some kind of content, if you're out there to serve and you're out there to educate, address some kind of issue or challenge that episode you're recording is going to overcome, or that is going to fix for people, or that video is going to address. He's like, and once you start doing that, he's like, you're going to start to build up more traffic, more views, more people that follow you that are interested in what you have to say because you're educating and you're taking a challenge that you've been through and you're telling them how to fix it or a way to fix it that worked for you, and you're sharing that, and then that audience can take that and run with it. So if that's a product that helped, and you link to that, you're going to get more clicks, you're going to make more revenue, more conversions, etc. So that feedback has kind of helped me with the way I'm going to address things going forward, not in every piece of content I make, but in some cornerstone content of how am I helping you guys with your issues. And for example, in this episode, if networking and growing your podcast through in-person relationships is part of what you want to do, then I think conferences could be a great stepping stone. And the next one and last one is brand exposure. So I actually spoke at this conference. The first time I've ever spoke at a conference, it was 15 minutes. I gave a speech about how to measure the success of your podcast beyond downloads. Talked about various things like measuring episode completion rate, measuring the amount of leads you're getting from your podcast, and various other things. But I think that brand exposure of now people, maybe they'll see me on social media or the people I've already connected with on social from the conference. It just is a great thing for your brand. I think word of mouth and connecting that face to that name, to that speech is going to help grow your brand. It's going to help establish yourself as a thought leader in the industry. And even all the people I met now, like Chris O'Keefe and Ashley Graham, like I know Chris is associated with Podcation now, and Ashley's a publicist, and Roger's a content creator, and Lloyd is a content creator. And I know about them personally now and their brand. And so that's going to be resonating in my head. Maybe I'm ready to hire a publicist at some point. Now I have these people floating around in my head because I know who they are and what their brand is and what their brand does. And I think just the more that you're top of mind for people, I think that's just going to come in handy down the line for whatever it is, whether that's getting work or giving work or just becoming friends and building like professional relationships. It just helps. And any kind of exposure is great, but we're so much like online videos and Instagram and YouTube and even podcasting. When you really get to see someone in person and then meet them, and that brand really, I think, sticks even more with all the people you meet, because now you're like, you got to know them a little bit. And I went to dinner with these people twice, a couple of them. And so now it's like we're really ingrained in each other's minds, and that's really important for branding in general. So that's it, guys. How to grow your network, build your brand, grow your podcast, all through in-person connection at podcast conferences. The online stuff is great, but getting out there, shaking hands, grabbing drinks is just going to reward you in the future. And if nothing at all comes of it, if, there's never any kind of other like relationship or like work that exchanges hands, who cares? You had a great time. You got to connect with other humans and you got to learn a little bit more about your industry. And you probably have 2 or 3 actionable tips that you can take home to start working on your business, your brand, your podcast today. And I want to shout out again, the Outlier Conference, outlierhq.com. You can see where the upcoming festival is going to be. And that's it, guys. Head on over to thepodcasthaven.com. Check out the blog. Fill out the contact form if you've got questions. My goal is to help you become a better, more efficient podcaster and would love for you to get in touch. And if I could help you in any way, let me know. I'll answer some questions and help you along your journey. Hopefully sharing a little bit about my journey has inspired you. So keep listening, keep engaging, keep creating. I'm out.